92 to 95 FM, 810 medium wave, and on digital radio. BBC Radio Scotland.
This is Good Morning Scotland. Thursday's top news stories. The Chancellor George Osborne says ministers will listen to what the House of Commons has had to say on the European Union budget. Last night, Tory rebels combined with Labour to demand a cut rather than a freeze, as supported by the coalition. Mr Osborne said their frustration was understandable. But speaking on this programme, the Shadow Foreign Secretary Douglas Alexander accused the Prime Minister of being weak and leading a divided party. BBC Radio Scotland News. The time is 26 minutes to 9.
And you're listening to Good Morning Scotland with Gary Robertson and Hayley Miller. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Those words are as pertinent today in the United States as they were when they were first cast on a bronze plaque at the Statue of Liberty over 100 years ago. But immigration and foreign policy are two of the most controversial issues in this year's presidential election campaign. And as our correspondent David Miller has been discovering, they're issues which have become inextricably linked.
The children of recently arrived refugees learning how to take part in one of the best-loved traditions of American childhood, Halloween.
Careful. Check the tree. Check the sheep. Good job. And say thank you.
Their parents learn English and practical measures like how to complete a tenancy agreement at this class in the basement of a local church here in the town of Harrisonburg, Virginia.
This apartment is good. This rent is okay.
Over the years, immigrants have travelled to America from around the world, but in more recent times, most refugees have tended to arrive from regions where the US military is directly involved. Rebecca is a project worker here.
We were getting a lot of Bosnians, Serbians, Croatians who were fleeing the conflict there. And then we were getting a lot of Sudanese and Somalian families. And then we started getting waves of people from Afghanistan because that was right after September 11th. And so as America changes where it becomes involved overseas, you see these waves of refugees. So right now we have a lot of the Iraqis.
Zana Hamarahim is an Iraqi Kurd. His parents came to the United States after Saddam Hussein issued a death threat. Zana's family now run a successful restaurant business in Virginia.
It's always a little difficult when you go to somewhere when it's new, you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, you don't know the area. At the beginning, the first couple of years, it's a little hard till you get to know everything. After that, once you adapt everything, so it'll become easier.
For Zana, this is the American dream.
It's really easy to do that. You never know till you get started. It's kind of hard first when you think about, starting a business, the responsibility. But what naturally will come to you. Nothing's hard once you put your mind to it.
The focus for most voters in this election campaign has been on the economy. But the polls show foreign policy and immigration matter too. The problem is, for the American electorate, these issues have become so complex and interwoven that it's difficult to see where one ends and the other begins. Dr. Joseph Fitsanakis is a defence expert at King College in Tennessee.
I think that for most voters in America, a country that is a superpower, it's very difficult to distinguish foreign policy from domestic policy. And foreign policy ties into economics in a very major way. Look, for example, the whole adventurism of the Iraq War. That, according to some economists, has cost more than $1 trillion to the U.S. economy. And some, of course, would argue that if it weren't for this, the United States economy wouldn't be in the shape that it's now. So it's very difficult to separate those decisions about foreign policy, decision to go to war, for example, from the economic impact that they have inside the United States.
Does 9/11 still cast a shadow, though, over this campaign? Is Iraq even being mentioned, or is the focus almost entirely on the situation in Afghanistan and looking to the future, potentially in Iran?
I think 9/11 does not play an important role in this campaign, but what plays a role is the reaction to 9/11, the response of the United States. A lot of Americans were hoping for a type of response that would be sort of very clear-cut, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. sort of like a V-Day result, and that has not happened. What we've seen instead is a protracted war in which America hasn't come out the winner. And so that, I think, confuses American voters. They're not quite sure what exactly this war was about, what the result was, and what the next step is. We're told, for example, that Bin Laden is dead, Al-Qaeda is gone. And yet, you know what happened in Benghazi in Libya, where for the first time in decades, an American ambassador was killed by Al-Qaeda-linked militants. And so those are the kinds of things that are confusing Americans. They're not quite sure the status of the current so-called war on terrorism.
That report by our correspondent David Miller there.